Hello friends. Language is a very complex phenomenon. We use language in different ways in different situations. When we make a statement before somebody, the language that we use is one kind. When we request somebody for something, then the kind of language that we use changes. When we make a command to somebody, when we give an order to someone, again the language changes. When we express surprise, wonder, or happiness, or grief, then the kind of language that we use again changes. When we ask a question, the language changes. When we answer a question, we use again a different structure of language. So the kind of language that we use in different social situations keeps changing, and these changes are evidenced by the structure of the sentences that we use. Today, we learn what are those different types of sentences which make such different utterances possible in different situations. The types of sentences determine the kind of situations in which we can use language. The first type of the four types of sentences, the first one is affirmative or assertive sentence. Affirmative or assertive sentences are those sentences which we use to make a plain statement or a simple sentence before somebody. The next kind of sentence is an imperative sentence. Imperative sentences are of two kinds, requests and commands. The third category of sentences are interrogative sentences, or simply put, questions. And the last category of sentences are exclamatory sentences, or sentences which express happiness, grief, wonder, surprise, etc. Now, let us see what are these different kinds of sentences. How do these sentences differ from each other? Let us see the first kind of sentences, the affirmative or assertive sentences. Assertive sentences or affirmative sentences, they make a statement, and it is just a statement of fact. They are just plain statements. For example, Preeti is a student. Ravi went to Mumbai. The exams have been postponed. The room will be cleared tomorrow. So when we look at these sentences, they are just plain statements. They do not ask anything. They do not express any surprise, or they do not ask any questions. They do not command anybody. They are just plain statements. We can see that not only such positive statements, even negative statements can be categorized under affirmative sentences. For example, Julie is not a doctor, Nazim doesn't live here, etc. are negative sentences, but they are also affirmative sentences. Let us now look at the next category of sentences, which are called imperative sentences. Imperative sentences come under two categories. One category is request. That is, when we make a request to somebody, then it is the structure of the sentence changes. There are certain words that we use to give emphasis for our request, to emphasize the manner of our request. We use certain words. So they also characterize the kind of imperative sentences that we use in our daily life. And the second category of imperative sentences are commands. That is an order. Let us see these two categories of sentences. Some examples can be discussed here. First one is, could you please lend me your pen? Could you please is the structure of a request. It is a very polite form of asking a person to lend her or his pen to us. Kindly open the windows. Without the kindly, the sentence would appear to be very rude. So the word kindly makes the sentence into a request. So it is not only the structure of the sentence, it is also the words that we use that determine the kind of sentence that we use in our daily life. Imperative sentences are also sentences which function as commands. For example, don't smoke, you should not park here, etc. are not requests but commands, orders. So orders and requests both are categorized into the second category of sentences, which are known as imperative sentences. Let us look at the third category of sentences, which are known as interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentences are sentences which ask questions. Such as sentences, they are of two kinds, WH questions and yes or no questions. WH questions are questions which begin with the question word W or the question word H. So the questions that begin with who, what, which, when, why, where, etc. are all WH questions. The H, there is only one H question word, that is how. So the questions that begin with who, which, when, where, why, what, how, these are all WH questions. And the second category of questions are called yes or no questions. And yes or no questions take only yes or no for an answer. Whereas WH questions cannot take yes or no for an answer. So this is the difference between WH questions and yes or no questions. Some examples of WH questions are who is the speaker, what is your name, and how are you. Some examples of yes or no questions are, did you have your lunch? Will you send the mail today? Can I join you for the movie? These questions, these yes or no questions can only take yes or no for an answer. For example, for the question, did you have your lunch? I can only say yes or no. I cannot say, did you have your lunch? And I cannot answer Jayaprakash. For what is your name? I can say, my name is Jayaprakash. It will keep changing depending upon the person you ask the question. But yes or no questions will take only yes or no for an answer. So these are the differences between these two kinds of questions. But both questions are together categorized into the kind of sentences that are known as interrogative sentences. So the next category of sentences, the last category of sentences, they are known as exclamatory sentences. Exclamatory sentences are sentences that we use these sentences to show our feelings of happiness, wonder, or sorrow to somebody. These sentences are characterized by their exclamatory mark that we put at the end of these sentences. Like the questions have a question mark at the end of a sentence. Exclamatory sentences have exclamatory mark, which indicate that it is an exclamatory sentence. What a beautiful flower. Alas, the poor cat is dead. Hooray, we won the first prize. These are examples of exclamatory sentences. Now we come to the importance of syntax, or rather the word order in a sentence. Syntax is the structure of the sentence. It is the way in which we order the words in a sentence. For those who are familiar with computers and programming, you know that when we write a program, it is very specific. If you forget to put a period or a comma when you write the program, when you execute the program, what happens? The program just crashes if you have not put the comma where it is required, or a bracket where it is required, or a period where it is required. If you have left out something, the program crashes. And what is the error that you see? The dialog box on your screen tells you syntax error. Syntax in programming is the structure in which the program is written, and syntax in language is the structure of the sentence that we utter. As syntax is very important in writing a program, so is it very important when you speak the language. So therefore, it is this syntax which also decides the different kinds of sentences that we use in our daily life. Let us see how these words in a sentence differs in different kinds of sentences. The different syntax leads to different kinds of sentences. For example, these 4 kinds of sentences that we discussed, exclamatory sentence or interrogative sentence or an imperative sentence or a plain statement, these are all decided by the kind of structure that we use in these sentences. Let us look at 2 sentences. How beautiful the flower is and how beautiful is the flower. The words are the same in these 2 sentences. The structure is different. The change in structure makes the first sentence an exclamatory sentence and the second one a question. The first one exclaims that the flower is very beautiful, and the second sentence is asking for the degree of beauty of the flower. The person who is asking that question is asking us, how beautiful is the flower? Is it beautiful than this flower, or is it beautiful than this flower? So it is asking for the degree of beauty that the flower possesses. Whereas the first sentence is an expression of wonder, an expression of surprise that the flower that we see is so beautiful. Let us look at these 2 sentences. Why are you crying and why you are crying? I have stricken off the second one because it is a wrong structure. Why are you crying is the structure of a question. Why you are crying, the structure is that of a question, appears to be that of a question, but it is not. Just by putting a question mark or just by putting a question word why, we cannot make a sentence into a question. The structure has to be that of a question. Why is it not that of a question? Why you are crying not a question? Because you are crying is the structure of a sentence. Just by adding a why before you are crying, it doesn't become a question. But when you want to make it a question, you have to change the syntax, that is the word order. You are crying has to be changed into are you crying? Even if you don't put a why before the are, it still is a question. So it is not the question word or the question mark that makes a sentence a question, but rather it is the structure that we use that decides whether a sentence is an exclamatory sentence or a question or a plain statement. So the next time that we use language, let us take care of these things and use proper syntax so that we become more accurate in using this language. Good luck and thank you.